All right, all set? All right, call to order special meeting, Smithfield Town Council, June 1st, 2023. Madam Clerk, can you lead us in a prayer and the pledge, please?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Ogier? Ms. Alves?
Here. All right, new business, A, discussion by council vote or other action on legislation authorizing the town of North Smithfield to finance the development and construction of a new police station or the renovation, improvement, alteration, and repair of an existing building to be used as a police station as determined by the town council, and the furnishing and equipping thereof by the issuance of not more than $18 million of bonds and/or notes therefor. Do both, or?
If I would just do one at a time, Madam President. I'll just so the council is aware, based upon the vote of your last meeting, the legislation was drafted. I contacted bond counsel, legislation was drafted. It was presented to the General Assembly. It is in the form of bill number 6451 in the House and bill number 1074 in the Senate. The House sponsor was Brian Newberry, and the Senate sponsor was Senator Dela Cruz, Senator Paolino, and Senator Murray. Both bills were introduced, referred to their respective finance committees, and they're being held. Obviously, they're waiting for you. This is a copy of the bill, the companion bill. So your first action would be to approve the bill, and then you would move to item number 2.
Okay, anyone like to make a motion on new business A?
Could I just ask a question?
Sure.
Sorry. So we're gonna, the motion would be to approve the bill as presented by the two bills, right? So it would be.
Just this language. It's the same language. It's this language in both houses. I just wanted you to know where the bills were. It's the language that is in that was attached to the agenda. It's a companion bill. It's identical language in these two bills.
Okay.
In these two bills.
On my thing, it's not numbered. It's not a reference number. On
That's right. Because this was drafted after your meeting. I just checked on the bills today.
Okay.
And I printed off where they were to let you know where they were. I wish I ignored this. I wish I didn't mention it now, because I'm confusing you. This is the language that was drafted by bond counsel based upon your vote last week. That's what this is. You asked the bond counsel to draft it. It was made and seconded. This is it. So this would be approving that language.
So the motion would be then to approve the bill as presented to the General Assembly.
It'd be a motion to approve the bill as presented.
Okay, I'll make that motion to approve the bill as presented to the General Assembly and also to the Senate.
Second.
Discussion? Yeah, go ahead, I have discussion too.
Okay, I have just a couple of things, and one, I'm going to let people know ahead of time that I'm voting no again on this for just a couple of reasons, not the least of which, but just to highlight them. I think it's difficult for people to understand what they're voting on, the way the ballot question is written. We don't have a definitive impact yet on what the cost will be to voters. And as I said before, I think it's very similar to buying a car and just not even asking what the car payment schedule is going to be. So I think a lot of people are very concerned about that. And then the last thing is, if it fails for whatever reason in the configuration that it's currently documented, then we have to start from scratch again, and our police department deserves better than that. So I just wanted to let people know what I was going to be voting, why I was going to be voting, and how I will vote on the next issue as well.
Well, sticking with your analogy of the cars, if you had a car and it was falling apart and it was jalopy and it was gonna get you killed one day because it was such a dangerous vehicle, then wouldn't you wanna buy a new car?
If you can afford it.
Yeah, I think if we had a better.
You get a
yeah.
car.
Yeah, I think if we had a better sense of what the cost would be to people, because this is just one item, and as we all know, there's a lot going on in the country right now. There's clawing back of possibly COVID money from the government, which could impact us on a state level, which will then impact us again on a local level. So a lot of things going on. I don't think it's the best time of the economy to be doing something like this, but those three things are basically what I said. So I think if we had a better sense of what it would exactly cost, or very close to what it would cost people, collectively, I think I would be better with it.
I'd like to comment on that also. First of all, we've been commenting on this for what, 6, 7 years now? If you think this country is ever gonna get that better in this short a time, you must live on another planet than I do, because every time something comes out, it's not very positive. Economically, I think for the general mental health and physical well-being of this country, we've been waiting for so long. Let me tell you, we're going to come in one day, we're going to have a good storm, and the police are going to be intense outside somewhere. That's all.
Anyone else want to comment?
Well, I would just like to point out that the comments that I've been receiving have been very positive for this. I mean, I've had people reach out to me, I've run into people. I was at Beef Pond the other day, 2 people came up to me. I think the general public is in favor of this. I know there's some social media where everybody jumps on it, but you gotta negate that, because you gotta just forget that page, and you gotta listen to what the people out there are saying, not people on their keyboards, because the people out there are going out of their way to say to me, I bet you since we've met, I bet you I've had 6 people, and that's a lot. I've had 6 people approach me, 2 of whom I've never even heard of before, never met before, approached me and said, you know, it's about time we need this new police station. So you forget the noise on social media. You gotta listen to the noise that are coming directly from the people.
Okay, I've heard other noise, but that's good. That's why we're talking about
Right,
it.
I
This is
agree.
great.
Do you want to go, or?
Yeah, I can go real quick. So I just, after the conversation last week, I remembered back to when I was on the budget committee last year, and we actually looked at this question. You know, we were very conscientious that a bond was coming, potentially at some point. You know, I think everyone will agree we need to do something there, and the monies that we had left over from the other bond just weren't sufficient enough. And so we looked at what is the town's borrowing capacity as it relates to debt service, and the town, as we were told by the financial advisor last year, and I'm asking for updated numbers, was more than enough, had more than enough borrow capacity to not impact the bond rating. I also started reaching out to the finance director since our last meeting, and he had given me some preliminary numbers. So I think if it's okay with the administrator, I would like the finance director to maybe be at our next meeting to kind of, confirm, but, the preliminary number looked to be about 54 cents to the average home based on some rates. And so I think I agree, we need to get clarity around what the impact is. There's so much speculation, whether it's online or it's offline. I think the town, doesn't need to spend all 18 million just because the 18 million's there. And, like surrounding communities do, I think we should be the spot where people can get the information from. This project should be fully transparent on the town's website. They should know where it is in every step of the process. We owe it to the residents to at least increase the transparency more so than we've done in the past. I think we need to set a new standard there. But we need to address our aging infrastructure. Nobody's going to want to live in a town if there's no aging infrastructure. As a young family, I don't think I would have moved to North Smithfield if the infrastructure is worse than what it is now, right? Schools, that's a large reason why people move here. We maintain our schools. We need to do so with the other services that we provide. New businesses, are they going to invest in a town like Lincoln who's investing in infrastructure like this, or are they going to invest in a town like us? It becomes a question that everyone starts to look at and answer, and in such a competitive time, taxes are important, and we should be keeping taxes low, but it doesn't mean we can turn a blind eye and not look at addressing the elephant in the room and taking care of those priorities as they come up.
I totally agree that we definitely need a police station. We need to do something with the police station, but I mean, I've been saying for, I would say, at least a year and a half that I don't think this is a decision that should go at a special election. I've been saying, anyone who has spoken to me knows exactly what I've been saying, is that this is a decision that you need to have at a general election, preferably a presidential election, that we're gonna have the most voters. And now with this election, I hate to say it, but I don't think this election is gonna affect the town as much as a regular, smaller special election. I think we're gonna have fewer voters. Would you say, Joanne, the last special election was like 800 and something voters?
926 or something.
Yeah, so I bet you we don't even have that come out, and we're gonna have such a big decision decided on 800 votes, if that. And I've also, since midterm last time when Mr. Vadney tried to push it, that I just think it's too much money for this town. I agree, I definitely agree, and I support the police, and I agree we need to work with our infrastructure, and we need to get improvements done to the buildings. Maybe if we did improvements throughout the years, we wouldn't be in this bad of a situation, but it's a lot of money, and we're only looking at half the residents that can afford this. We're not looking at the other half who can't. And you can check my social media. I haven't been on social media for a good 2 or 3 weeks because I need to take a break from it. I haven't listened to anybody. I just know that how I feel is that I've been pushing at least for a year and a half that we need to get it lower, we need to get options to the voters, and we need to do it in a general election. I'm afraid that this is gonna get passed, and we're only gonna have maybe 300 voters out there, 400 voters out there, and everyone else is gonna be stuck with this price tag. And not everyone can afford this. We are on some hard times in this town, and I really don't think we can afford it. And yes, I have plenty of friends that are like, oh my God, we need to do something with this police station. Yes, we do, but I don't think it comes at a $20 million price tag. And that was the other thing that I pushed back when Mr. Vadney wanted to proceed and go to a special election. I said, it's way too much money. It's way too much money. And we had that, remember that meeting? We had a debate with Mr. Vadney, and it went on and on. And then what happened a month or two later? The building task force came up and said, you know what, I think we need to put it on hold because of escalation costs. Great, that's what I've been trying to say. And now we've come down to 18 million. We still don't know which way we're going. We go in single story, 2-story. And I think, to be honest, that this bill is gonna be confusing to the voters, because I think the voters are gonna go in and say, okay, we're gonna spend 18 million and we're gonna build a new station, even though it says renovate. But you know what? I'd be kind of nervous if I see the word renovate and we're going to spend $18 million. I thought we were going to give an option, and I have been pushing. Anyone that has spoken to me knows that all I've been saying is this needs to go to the general election. I have never said, let's do a special election. And I just think it's a big thing to push on to a special election, that I don't really think we're even going to get 800 voters that we got last time.
What about the vote at the last meeting? You voted in support of?
Because we had no other options, John. What are we going to do? Mr. Ami, I feel like, as much as we listened to him last week, I feel like he wasn't prepared. We had no option. There was no way he could come back to us with another cost. We have Tecton, who we've been dealing with. We've already been spending a lot of money. I feel that we need to at least hear what he has to say about a single story. Maybe we still keep pushing back on him. I don't know. I mean, any other purchase we do, we have to get 3 bids, and you know for a fact that I have been saying this for at least a year and a half, that it's way too much money, and I don't believe it should go to a special election. I've been thinking about it, and I just don't feel that this is the way we should be going. But I mean, there's, the other council, but I don't feel like this is the right thing to do.
Then maybe we should get active, go to senior centers, make it known, go out there. They don't come to us, let's go to them.
Well, yeah, we definitely have to do, and that's what I talked to Mr. Vadney about last week, is we definitely are going to need to do all these special meetings, public meetings, need to get the public out there and need to know exactly what's going into this building, what the intentions are. But then we also need to we do need a backup.
I think worrying about the backup is, yes, it's something we should be discussing, but I think if we start talking about a backup, that's going to confuse voters even more. And I'm only saying that because people are going to think, well, let me fail this because it goes to the backup and the backup. Who knows what the cost of the backup would be at that time? I don't disagree that we need to have some type of plan B, at least even if it's just tentatively discussed. But, I think it needs to go back to the voters. The voters need to decide on this if they want us to even go down the path of new or renovate or whatever. And if it doesn't, in all honesty, I think it's time that this town looks at building a public safety complex then at that point in time. If this fails for this amount of money, then I think we're saying, okay, I've heard from people that they would stomach 18 million for a public safety complex. And maybe it's time we look at how services are provided in the town as a comprehensive whole. But we have to at least start here. Do you want the police station, yes or no? And then go from there and find out what happens.
Well, then, maybe that should have just, do you want a police station, yes or no? Well, yes, we want the police to be in a building that's adequate and that,
Meet standards and
but
everything
do we need to spend $18 million? Because if someone said to me, I'm not gonna, you give me a price that I can't go over, and I give you a price, aren't you gonna go as close as you possibly can to that price tag? Of course you are.
I agree with you. I think that's where we can push back on Tecton further, like we said. And, renovate, build new, I'm not going to lose sleep over whatever option we go down this path, right? We need to address that building first and foremost. With a young family, public safety is important to me. I don't have extra discretionary money that I can just say, okay, my taxes can go up by a ton, that's fine by me. No, taxes matter specifically. And so I'm not saying let's build an $18 million police station. I don't want to use the grant, but the grant would be huge if we could secure some money from the Fed. It's a long shot, I know.
I think
but
that's
it's a long shot.
That is a question.
That's why I'm
Okay,
saying
never
let's
say
not
never.
entertain it.
Yeah.
But we could have used ARPA funds for some of this. There's other options we could use. We could use some money from the fund balance that we have available. It's not necessarily going to be a full $18 million. And according to Ellen, when she was at one of our meetings, we could, if MBRT comes back and says it's 14 million, we could cap it at 15 million. Like, there's nothing saying we can leave this open-ended for the full 18 to be touched. There is still options, and maybe there's other funding sources out there that we're not aware of right now. But I think we need to at least make sure we have enough money, because if, like I said at the last meeting, if we just throw in operating cost and say let's bond that, we're going to be short. We're going to be stuck.
At Tecton's last meeting, they said that they gave us what they were asked for. They were asked for a new building. But I also believe they were probably asked for, give us the best and the greatest building. And now that we're asking them to back down, they're coming back with other versions. So I think there is room in what they're doing. But I think exactly what he said, we gave you what we were asked for. And I think we asked them for the sky, and that's what they gave us. And I don't know, I'm just having a hard time with that.
The reason why we're in this mess right now, years later, is because when they tried to do this originally, they put a number out, and they tried to back into that number. And that's why we're in this mess. If they just had hired a good contractor, had a good architect that had experience in building police stations, they would have given a real number of what it would cost to bring that police station up to date. However, instead, they threw a number out, whatever it was back then, $4 million or whatever, and fix it, make it. And then they went along, they're like, hey, you can't do it for that, you can't do it for that, we've got to cut this out, we've got to cut that out. We can't put a number out there again. We can't put a $10 million number out there, or $11 or $12 million number out there again, and take a chance that they're going to back into it again, because that's not how you do it. Tecton gave us a great police station. And they're even ready to come back and talk about the single-story police station that Doug's the one that brought that up, and they're going to have a plan for a single-story police station. That's the company. They're the ones with the experience, and that's the way we should go.
Well, I still think it's going to be confusing to the voters, the way it's written. But if everyone wants to move on, then move on and see what the feeling is in the community for that. And then you have to take additional steps later to provide a plan, approve a plan. We don't have that yet. We have a concept right now, really. And that might be something we would have to do sooner than later, I would think.
Well, I'll say this too about the special election. If it fails because we have a special election, and somebody was for it and didn't vote, my answer would be, well, you should have voted. it might have made a difference. And it cuts both ways. If somebody's against this, then get out there and vote no. But if you don't vote no and you're against it, then you have nothing to complain about. They have an opportunity to vote. This will be advertised. There'll be no secrets that we're having this vote. There's a General Assembly, not a General Assembly, a Congress seat that's up, that's going to be on the ballot as well. So it's going to be more than just a special election for the police station. And if you don't vote, if you're against it, and you don't vote, and it passes, then you only have yourself to blame.
Well, that's why I think the task force really has to make sure that we have some very public meetings that people are aware of and that they're advertised, whether they're, I mean, maybe information should be going out weekly in the newsletter. Maybe, you know, there should be something somewhere, because there's really nothing. I mean, I was actually with some people on Saturday, and they're like, oh, I didn't know about a new, you know, like, I'm like, you didn't hear about a new police station, like, for $18 million? And they're like,
And most people don't even know it.
No, that's
you know,
North
it's like,
Smithfield.
so that's what I'm saying. So, on the other hand, most people don't know, so how are they gonna come out and vote if people don't know about it?
Because it will be advertised.
Right, but we have to make sure that,
That's right.
that there's signs out there, that there's meetings, that we have them, and I know that Tecton's gonna do the numerous meetings and stuff, but we have to like really do our due diligence to make sure that everyone understands what is out there, because I just feel this special election that people, I mean, it could get passed and people are like, what do you mean my taxes are gonna go up? You know, like, I still think that even as long as we've been talking about it, that there's still people, a lot of people that don't know nothing about it. I don't know.
I agree that I think we need more education on it. And I think Tecton said in the past, in other communities, they've gone to schools, they've gone to organizational meetings, like PTA meetings, like those types of things. Like, we need to work with Tecton, make sure there's enough money in their educational budget, and then figure out how we can best target people, and let the voters decide. Give them all the information and let them decide. And if it fails, then I would say on November 8th, on the next day, then we get something, try to get something figured out for the next election instead of waiting another 2 years. And we're already paying for the special election. We're paying for it anyway, so
Well, we wouldn't be waiting 2 years, because we have another election.
next year. And then a new council would potentially get in, and then there would be new plans and new discussion. I mean, this is how many councils? 5 councils, 6 councils since 2013, 2014? I mean, it just keeps getting kicked down the line. Eventually, at some point, we just need to put it back at them, let them decide. If it rejects, and we move on.
Yeah. Well, we have a motion up there in a second. We're not opening it, Mike, sorry.
Excuse me, you said we're not opening it.
Joanne, roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
No.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
No. B, discussion by council vote or other action on resolution memorializing the General Assembly to enact legislation authorizing the town of North Smithfield with the approval of the qualified electors to issue not to exceed 18 million general obligation bonds, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness to finance the development and construction of a new police station or the renovation, improvement, alteration, and repair of an existing building, and to be used as a police station as determined by town council in the furnishing and equipping thereof.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick discussion. I just want to point out that under now therefore, that section where it says section 1, 2, and 3, it does mention a special election in there as well. So that is the target for a special election, just in case there's confusion.
I'm sorry, what are you referring to?
It says that the question, so under now therefore be it resolved by the town council of the town North Smithfield as follows, and described here in section 2, it says that the question of the approval of this act shall be submitted to the electors of the town at an election to be held on a date set forth in the bond act or at a special election. So the target is a special election, in case there's confusion.
It's any election.
Excuse me, Mike.
It's any election. Read it.
Madam President, I think we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
I understand it's any election, but the target here is a special. Anyone that's followed or watched or anything, it's a special election, right? So I'm just pointing it out there that the goal is for a special election, and if it fails and rejects, then we have to move forward and figure out what to do next.
Okay. Anyone else have any discussion? Roll call, Joanne?
Mr. Biragad,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
No.
Mrs. O'Hara,
Yes.
Mr. Ogier,
Yes,
Ms. Alves.
No. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Adjourn.